Hey everybody, I am Darren from Topkey. So thanks for joining us today. We have just really great panel lined up. As I was saying, Morgan, Heather, Brett, really experienced operators on the financial and the operation side. So very excited to be able to talk to you. We talk with a lot of property managers just about how complex their financial operations are and essentially everything that you have to juggle. It gets very complex and it gets very time consuming. And I know that from our side, Heather, Morgan, you are really uh, very effective and advanced from what we see from a lot of companies. And so this is why we wanted to have you on. And then Brett here from Track. But yeah, our goal today is really to make this actionable for everybody who's in the audience. Quick housekeeping. This is an interactive panel. So if you have questions throughout, feel free to drop those in the chat throughout the discussion. You can also send them just to the host and panelists or through the Q&A, however you want to send those in. It always makes for a really good interactive panel whenever you submit questions. So yeah, feel free. Anything that comes up, just drop those into the chat as we go along. We love seeing the engagement. So this is really part of the benefit of doing a live webinar like this is that everyone gets somewhat a voice. You get to actually ask questions that are relevant to you. So um, yeah, with that, let's meet our panelists. So first up, we have Morgan Buss, Operations Manager at Luxury Properties Jackson Hole. She brings a lot of firsthand experience on the finance and operations workflows. Heather Petty, Accounting Manager at the Clear Creek Group. She's also just day to day bringing a really good perspective on the financial operations side. And I know just working with both of you as customers, we see that you're doing a lot of things right that I think a lot of people can learn from. And then finally, Brett Wright, Solutions Engineer at Track, who is really here to help uh, build on the conversation from that perspective, because obviously everyone's using these tools, these systems every day. And so yeah, maybe to kick things off, would love for everyone to just introduce yourself, share a little bit about your background, and then yeah, we'll kick off with questions. Morgan, do you want to start first?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everyone. My name's Morgan. I live here in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. I work in operations here at Luxury Properties Jackson. Been here for a shorter period, maybe about 9 months. Heather and I actually used to work together over at Clear Creek Group. I was there for maybe a little under 2 years. So, been working with Top Key for and Track for about as long as I started with my property management role after being in high-end hotel management hospitality, so about 2 years. So I've learned to love it and grow with it, and it's been a very useful tool for our company and keeping things organized.
All right, Heather.
Yeah, I'm Heather. I'm with the Clear Creek Group, also out of Jacksonville, Wyoming. I am the accounting manager. I've worn many hats throughout the years with the company. I started with them back in 2009, so it's been quite a while. We've been using Track since about 2018, I think, and we started with Top Key 2 years ago, I believe, and it's been a game changer for us.
All right, Brett.
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Brett Wright. I am our solution engineer and partnerships manager here at Track. Live in the Phoenix area, been with Track now just shy of about 6 years, in the vacation rental industry now for about 11 or so. Yeah, and super excited to get to work with, operators every day, Track users and even non-Track users about everything that's going on and how, where you're looking for efficiencies in all of your operations, which makes me super excited for this conversation with Morgan, with Heather, with Darren, and all of you who are in attendance here. Yeah, just to highlight some great wins here. So thanks for letting me partake.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think everyone brings a different perspective on this. So I think it's really valuable. So yeah, maybe to kick things off, Morgan, just as a starter question for everyone, and then we'll deep dive from there. I guess walk us through the tech stack. How, when you and your team were building this, how were you building it? Like, what kind of came first and why? Or, if
Topkey
you were
was
building it out.
actually kind of already implemented into our company when I came on. So I wasn't as much part of the build out, but it's been very much ever evolving as there's new things that come into Topkey that we're able to process and link with Track. So kind of a weird one on that end. Maybe Heather can maybe add on a little bit and how her company kind of built it out, because I was there when they kind of helped build it out, and coming from the billing end where it's like, hey, we're not manually uploading receipts every day into Track and taking so much time to do that. This is all coming through one program, and we're able to push things over. We're able to see it all. We're not shuffling through receipts. We're able to easily have my caretakers upload receipts, and not just get piled up all on someone's desk, and you're taking a whole couple days just to go through them.
Yeah, that was the big thing for us. We started with Track and we started with our regular ERP system, which at the time was NetSuite, and to have something that was the bridge between so that we didn't have all this double entry going on was huge for us because we have a lot of properties, we have a lot of people out in the field, we have a lot of third-party service providers. So when we started launching Topkey, we started just with the credit card transactions so that we didn't overwhelm, anybody. And once we realized how quickly that was working for us, we started really getting into the invoices and pushing bills over. And that took a lot of time and effort off of my plate, having to do all that manual entry and then, attaching the bills in Track and all of that, and just having those links directly there just made the biggest difference ever in terms of utilizing time effectively and having all that information at our fingertips as well as the fingertips of our homeowners.
Right, right. Brett, from your perspective, because obviously you're working with a lot of property management companies, what do you see in terms of order of operations, in terms of where people start and then how they build that out and how it evolves over time?
Yeah, I think so much of that comes back to the PMS, right? The PMS is really the what we like to call, really the heart of your operation, right? It's meant to do your reservation management, your accounting, housekeeping, maintenance, all these different things kind of center back around that. I think it's really pivotal that based on your PMS, you then determine what else do we need to bring into the mix to supplement what we're getting from there. And that's where folks like Topkey get to come in and help bridge that gap that both Morgan and Heather have called out. Spending all that time and manually putting all that information into the PMS for purposes of putting it on the owner statement, making sure that money is getting moved around as it needs to. It's a time-consuming process. And so, that's one of the things that excites us most about this partnership and integration with Topkey is really working to bring those efficiencies back into the operator's hands.
Awesome. So yeah, maybe to kind of keep going down this topic a little bit, something that we talk a lot about with property managers and that they ask us about is, when is the right time for a new tool or an existing tool or anything like that versus just adapting your process. So like, there's a zillion different tools out there. You can make everything a process, but that takes time and manual effort. How do you think about what requires a tool, which maybe also implies like automation, that kind of thing, versus what is more something that you should keep as a process or internal with the actual people doing it?
Yeah, we have our team meetings on Thursday morning for our company, and we'd even touched on this morning, which I think is great. But there's so many tools out there, and especially in this day and age with technology, it's like, which one do you use? And then you have so many different generations of people that are in a company, and people aren't as used to using new tools, or it's hard to learn new things as well. You get stuck in a certain process with certain systems, and it's scary when you bring on new tools like, hey, we know how to do this and we do this one really well. But when you bring something on, and I think just it's what the amount of time that you're spending. I think even before, when I was at Clear Creek Group, and I wasn't as much in the operations before, but you think about how much time is being wasted, and where you can better spend your time. So it's having those presented to you, and actually taking the deep dive into them and being able to learn it, and and onboarding it properly to your company and to the people to be like, hey, this is going to be great. I know it's scary, but it's all going to make our lives easier. We just got to take the time to learn it, get it down, and yeah.
Yeah, we started out going, okay, well, let's just change our process, and we've got some additional people on board here, and let's just, parcel out this little bit here. We'll have the HLs do the invoice entry now instead of all the accounting team. And we quickly realized that that wasn't as effective as we thought it was going to be. And so when, Topkey got brought up, we were like, okay, well, now we can change this process and automate it more to where, the bills still come to one person. They get pushed over to Topkey. From there, they get assigned to whoever the particular person is that needs to sign off on that bill for a homeowner. And then once they do that, then we can push it over into Track. So we just changed our workflow just a little bit, tweaking it, taking out that manual entry, but still getting the right people involved in each one of those transactions. And that was really helpful for us and really helped streamline a lot of stuff for us, to make sure that everybody that needed to have eyes on things could easily have eyes on things without having to go to 5 different places to do it.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think that's an important distinction is like, okay, maybe sometimes it's a process tweak or it's a small change, versus just rushing to change up all your systems, which is going to be months of work potentially when, okay, maybe sometimes that is the exact thing you need to do, but other times it's probably, okay, let's change our SOP, let's change our process a little bit. Brett, from your perspective, talking with lots of different people, how do you advise customers on that?
Yeah, I think each industry is a little bit different, but here in our hospitality space, like yeah, there's great tech, right? Between PMSs, other end solutions that we have, there's a lot of great tech in our space, but it all comes back down to the people, right? Whether that's the guests or the folks like Morgan, Heather, their teams, folks that are with us today. I think it's finding the right blend of playing to your people's strengths, right? Where do your team members really excel? And then where could they use some extra help, right? Or what tools make those team members' day-to-day jobs easier, not complicating things, right? There are so many tools out there that are so complicated and so robust and like, yeah, they can do all these things, but if you don't know how to use it, it's not going to do you any good, right? Anybody any good. So there's always that blend, but I think even that comes down to still making sure that you're getting the best out of the team members that you have to make sure you're getting that best use out of that tech.
Mhm.
Right.
Baby steps.
Exactly.
Yeah, we've learned those lessons the hard way with, launching any new software that we have is that we have to do it in stages. We can't just, go gangbusters right out of the gate because we will lose people on it. It's too overwhelming to do everything all at once.
Oh yeah. And a lot of my day to day in talking with potential customers who, might be looking to come on board with Track, you know, we come across all these ways to, create efficiencies and come up with a lot of these great ideas. But just exactly to what you're talking about, we often talk about that phased approach because if you try to overwhelm people with, a lot too much at once, especially as you're trying to do your day to days, then you start losing those people that are so great and pivotal to your team. And then it doesn't matter what tech you have if you don't have those people behind it.
Mhm.
Yeah, Morgan, you said something kind of interesting, and this ties into the people side of it is you said, where time can be spent better. So when you have good both processes and tools in place, like for you personally and what you see on the team, would love to hear stories of just maybe how is your time spent better? Obviously, if you're just manually clicking copy and paste, which I know, especially on the finance side, it's like we got to get data to somewhere and that. So like from your perspective, where is it spent better?
Yeah, I mean, just building relationships with inside of our property management company, actually being able to be in my homes and with my caretakers and really focus on the more important things rather than just the back end. I mean, our back end financial is so important, absolutely. But I mean, we're a much smaller company, so I'm pulled in so many different directions. But it's those relationships with, one, my homeowners, two, the employees of the company, and the important things and getting ready to ramp up for a busy summer season and making sure all of our spring maintenance inspections are getting done and the really big projects in the houses that we do during this off season are getting done. And so I can take the time when we have an automated process and I'm able to just push. It doesn't take me a whole day to do all of our transactions for the month, and I can just push them through over in a couple hours. I'm able to focus on the bigger things, the more important things, which in my opinion is, I think those relationships and and focusing on the people inside the company, because if they're happy, makes everything else and everybody else happy.
Yeah, and I'm pretty
Absolutely.
much back end only at this point, but me not having to chase down what's going on in the houses with the vendors, with the receipts from the guys, all of that allows our front end team to focus more on the homes and the homeowners and less on me chasing them for a receipt or trying to find out why a vendor is asking for this money, and also being able to keep our vendors paid in a timely fashion. By having all this stuff entered as quickly as possible makes everybody happy across the board.
Yeah, absolutely. Brett, and maybe Brett too, from your perspective. And we see this all the time. And I kind of tell people is it's like no one realizes getting into this industry, you are essentially a financial statement production business. If you don't have financial statements, you don't really have a product. Owners aren't staying with you. And if you get them wrong, they're not staying with you. And um, kind of to that point, the financials are really just so you get to the relationship, so you get to the actual um, customer of yours, which is the owner. So yeah, if you're so consumed with financials, you just forget about them. Then ultimately at the end of the day, they're not happy either. Brett, what are your thoughts on that? From where you see the most leverage that people get? Uh, is if they're doing just all the things Track does and Topkey and any kind of tool really that's good is where are people spending their time that is much more high leverage? It's much more valuable to the company.
Yeah. I mean, making sure that you're collecting all the money you need to. A lot of times we think about that from like guests, right, on the reservation side. But I think equally, if not depending on who you ask, maybe even more importantly, there's a whole other side of that where you have to make sure you're collecting what you need to from your owners. Otherwise, you're coming out of pocket. And we've heard stories of, I mean, and not from either of the folks that we have here with us today, but we've heard stories along the way of just larger than desired, financial losses because of those receipts that get stacked up and put on a desk that maybe get brushed aside by another stack of paperwork, right? And, something accidentally falls, behind something. It can become really unwieldy really quickly. Um, having systems in place that really optimize that data flow and get things in the right place as inherently as possible, yeah, allows you to make sure that you're getting what you need to in the door to recoup those costs.
Yeah, we did have issues with that, when we were in different PMS systems and when we were doing everything out of QuickBooks and Excel, with that suspense account being a little too big, a lot of lost funds because, we didn't know what those particular transactions were for because those receipts got lost or, the vendor didn't have the right name attached to something or, any of those things. So with this system, we're able to get things dealt with more quickly so that we don't have that issue.
Well, and even then too, Heather, if I may, like when you're getting that data, into track, even then it's coming up in a way where it's lined up to, the units and then the owners or the owners and then the
Mhm.
units, right? Depending on how those come in. So you're not necessarily having to spend additional time then sorting it out in within the PMS itself. Like think stuff's
Yeah.
coming in kind of where it needs to be, and that is then going to get disseminated to what the owners ultimately care about at the end of the day is that money, right? Like how much are they earning and what were their expenses, to kind of offset that. Making sure that those financial statements, to Darren's point, that are coming out to them, primarily those owner statements, those have to be clean, those have to be accurate. Um, that not only keeps your owners happy, that also keeps your trust or keeps their trust with you because they know they're seeing the full picture.
Yeah, things aren't lingering out there in the world.
And I
Exactly.
would like to introduce Inger, Finance Controller at Clear Creek Group. Thanks for joining. I know some technical issues on our end. So yeah, for the audience, uh, Inger is obviously with Heather, Clear Creek Group. So yeah, she brings a really good, slightly different everyone has these different financial perspectives. So yeah, really excited to have you here. We were just asking, we were talking about on the tooling and the process side, what does that free you up to do that's more valuable? If your whole day is spent copying and pasting data from one place to another, it's probably not the best use. It's probably not as fun either, but it's just not the best use of your time. There's more valuable things you could be doing. So if you set these up right, like what would you prefer to be doing that's actually more valuable to the business?
Producing timely financial statements and, getting all the information set for the homeowner statements in a timely fashion. I mean, it was like, we try and produce our homeowner statements on the 15th of the month, and it used to be we were still on the 13th and 14th trying to get everything that had been charged in the previous month on the credit card, or bills processed through that were coming through at the last minute, stuff like that. It's really freed it up to be a much less stressful process, and be more prepared so that people can review that information, before the last minute and have questions on it.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Heather, you said something interesting a minute ago is talking about team buy-in. How do you, so let's say, you have a process, you have a tool, you have, new SOP that is going to make your life easier. It's going to help the company. Sometimes getting team buy-in, everyone else has slightly different priorities. They've got their own stuff to worry about.
Mhm.
How do you think about or approach getting team buy-in that ultimately is going to make their life and your life and everyone's life a lot easier?
Yeah, it can be a little difficult, especially when you've got people that are really set in their ways. Um, you have to make it fun. You have to say, listen, guys, this is happening. You've got a certain time frame where you're just really going to have to buckle down and learn the system. But at the end of the day, it's going to make your life so much easier. You're going to be so much happier. I'm not going to be chasing you for something, and that's going to definitely make your life happier. So, make it exciting. There's still some people in the company that I have to give them a hard poke every month saying, hey guys, can you take a little trip through Topkey here today and just get this stuff taken care of before, next week so that I can get this taken care of. And, oh, I'm so sorry. I totally forgot. I'll get there today. I said, great, thanks. Um, you just got to make it exciting and say, hey, listen, guys, I'm trying to do this to make you that much happier and keep it simple, you know. And if that means we have 4 or 5 different conversations and meetings, and that's what it takes. But eventually everybody gets on board. And when we've got new people coming on board, having those old fuddy-duddies that were so set in their ways that are now gung-ho for this, as their training person, gets them excited about it right out of the gate and makes it, you know, again, that much easier moving down the road.
Gonna say the same thing, Heather. Is like, the more excitement you show and you can bring to it, it kind of transfers. Other people get excited. You might seem like the crazy weird person at the company who's all excited about this software program, and but you're presenting it, and it's like other people get excited about it too. So I think that's it's helpful.
And some of those people who were struggling along the lines of trying to find missing receipts when we're asking them 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later. I mean, then they can see the benefit of it, once they've actually participated in the process. And they're like, oh, this is so much easier than it used to be. So there's some, delayed buy-in sometimes that comes in along the way as they get comfortable using the software and comfortable in the process.
Yeah, and I wonder, Brett, you probably see this too, is sometimes uh, the most resistant people at the very beginning are the ones that once you win them over, once you show them their life is better, they're more of an advocate than even you started out as.
Hmm.
Yeah, 100%. And change is tough, right? I think for everybody, we all right struggle a little bit, depending on what's changing. It's finding out how to embrace that and showing people the wins. And that's one of my favorite parts about what I get to do, each day is showing people those wins and to see those things come to life. And I think no matter what team you're on, no matter what work you're doing, you have to have the buy-in, you have to have the support. None of us can do what we do by ourselves.
Great.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. Kind of switching gears a little bit to the question of scaling, because we see this all the time with companies where, they're bringing on a lot of new properties, or maybe they're doing it slow, but then just things internally start to break. On the accounting and the finance side, as you're growing, in your experience, what have you seen break, and then how did you fix that? How did you approach it? Heather, you're
Mm.
looks like you got a story there.
We've seen things break several times down the road. We actually just had to do a new implementation of Track because the version that we were running off of accounting wise was really outdated and no longer working for us. Um, because it wasn't what Track was using anymore anyway. So it was functionally broken. Um, you just have to figure out what's broken, what can we do to fix it. Is that a process that we need to change, or is that a new software that we need to bring on board? Um, when we were doing the new implementation of Track, we were also working with Topkey. We also decided that we needed a scheduling software, so we started looking into bringing on Breezeway. So we had all of that going on at the same time, and now we've got all of it up and running at once. And things are a lot better than they were before. And now that we look back, we didn't realize how bad it really was.
Yeah, I think that's what a lot of people will run into this. It's you're like, it's going to be better, promise you, and they're like, no, it's fine now. But then once they change it, they're like, well, I just thought I had to live with this, whatever it is. Morgan, what are your thoughts there on things that break as you're growing, scaling, and then how you've approached fixing?
You know, things that are breaking, think kind of first thing that comes to my mind first off is just I kind of just with bugs with programs. I think that's the thing that I've run into a lot or issues. And I mean, I not to even talk bad about Topkey, but it does happen with any software, any program that you're using, and being able to have the contact and to reach out to somebody and have somebody be on it and fix it right away is so helpful to us, because there's a lot of times where just in general life programs or life things where you have bugs or you're trying to get things fixed and you're on hold for this long and you can't get the right person and then you're transferred. So with being on the operation side of things and dealing with software, and you're going to run into more bugs, you're going to run into issues, and it's so incredibly helpful when you just want to get this thing fixed. That's it, because you're in the middle of it and then something breaks. So being able to reach out to somebody and have a support line and an email that's on it right away and have a solution and how to fix it in the future is definitely very helpful. And I'm not wasting time on hold on the phone, which is great.
I just think the way that our processes were set up before we had the integrations, like the functional track, the top key integration with the expense for the expense side, and then the breezeway for communications wise, I don't think we were set up to scale. It was like, I don't think that we could have, handled if we were going to bring on, 10 more properties. That would have been, however many more bills and however many more receipts and however many more, tasks that were falling through the cracks and stuff like that. So I think that it's a necessity in property management, I think, to have some really functional software answers in order to be able to scale and tackle on growing the company.
Yeah, absolutely. Brett, maybe a slightly different spin on it from the track side is, as people are scaling, um, both where do you see things break for people? But I'd be really curious your thoughts on the support side. So we've invested a lot on the Topkey side. Morgan, you brought this up, and I think it's really important is that every domain stuff is going to break. Things are going to come up. You're going to have to fix things, sort things out. If everything worked perfectly smoothly, they don't need any of us. It just all works. But you need people to actually work and help. And so we've invested a lot of support. I know Track, and this is why we like partnering with you, with customers. I think you're kind of known for that on your side. So yeah, what are your thoughts on like where things break and then how your team approaches helping people fix it?
Yeah, 100%. Um, I think it's all about scale, right? As any operator is adding more and more properties and owners and guests and everything into the mix. I mean, it's easy to overload systems that may have gotten you that great solid start, right, to get you where you are. Um, I think when you don't have that solid tech stack in place to really support, again, adding more and more onto things, then you're kind of in the scenario where, hey, we need to make a change now, and it can even add more to your plate, right? And you don't need that. Um, I think to the point that Morgan started on there in terms of support, right? Not just in your team, having this kind of internal support network, but with these vendors, with these softwares. One of the things that we will, say is, there is no perfect software, no matter what it is, right? Or what goal you're trying to accomplish. There is no, perfect solution out there. Stuff will happen. Stuff will, break. What matters is fixing it, right? And having a team that will help you work through that. And, we Track as a whole has put, a lot of energy, a lot of, investment into building up our support teams to be able to better support our customers when things do happen to go wrong or is not working correctly. We're still working on improving that support that we provide to our customers because we do understand how important it is for folks on the front lines or in the back office, as you called out earlier, Heather. Like, you all have such important roles to play in keeping those wheels moving and keeping your owners, your guests, your teams happy. So we're always proud to do and happy to do whatever we can to best support our customers and anyone who's in their network.
Awesome. Yeah, we have some questions from the audience here, and Heather's been great in answering some of these, but I want to kind of put it out here for the group because I think they're interesting. So, a lot of discussion on bills versus work orders. Where does everyone land on that?
Yeah, like I said in the Q&A, we typically push everything over as a bill. And that's kind of a personal preference on our end. We just like it to flow that way in the homeowner statements. The work orders, up at the top of the statement is great, but sometimes, your homeowners are not that great about going to the bottom of the statement to look to see what the detail of that work order was. So in terms of just being consistent and having that little one pager for them to look at, having it go through as a bill just makes it that much cleaner. Plus, they can just hover on that link and it'll just pop that invoice up for them so that they can see it right then and there and not have to go, like I said, hunting down to the bottom of the statement page in order to get that information.
I'd have to agree. We use it very similar as well. And it's like a lot of our repeat monthly transactions are all pushed through on my virtual top key cards. So every time something comes through, I'm able to just quickly grab the invoice, attach it, push it over, it pops up in that statement. Work orders, we don't, it's kind of different how I used to do it with Clear Creek Group, but they're more charge on an hourly labor basis, and then that's all kind of given to them on a separate way on a spreadsheet to be like, hey, this is what was done, this is how many hours were spent in your house. So it's more that the transactions that for anything that's purchased from a host, from a light bulb to an entire new revamp of their HVAC system, and doing so purchasing that, so and being able to see that reflected on their statement, and those reoccurring energy charges, their internet charges, all the little things like that. So
Inger, I'm sure you align with Heather on this, obviously,
Yes, for sure.
but
Yeah.
yeah, any extra thoughts on the bills versus work orders and how
Yeah,
they
no, I
impact
think
it.
that bills are very it's very transparent to be able to see that in a bill. It's a little bit more work if you're going to do a work order. We just recently switched to doing everything through Breezeway out of the, with the track connection there for work orders and such like that. So definitely the detail is easier to access in the bills.
Mhm. Brett, do you see any patterns there? Who uses work orders versus when's the right time to do that versus bills?
Yeah. A lot of it does come down to what the owners, I say what the owners' expectations are versus, what you're even able to show them in the first place. I think for some, like the folks, we have with us here, like the vendor bills are great. Um, the work orders may fit well for, other types of owners who, want the information displayed differently. We provide that flexibility in those options. You can do it, one way, you can do it the other. Maybe you've got a situation in which you would do both of those things for a particular owner. I think just having that flexibility is, a huge thing. And like speaking, more specifically to, our connection with Breezeway, super strong. And they've even recently been working on some functionality that allows, the end users to even have a bit more granularity in, do you want charges from Breezeway to push in as a vendor bill or as a more itemized, owner charge on a work order? So we've worked closely with them for them to be able to leverage that different or those different paths or those different options that we've got available in Track. So that's been fun to work on with the Breezeway team also.
Got it. Okay, cool. Another question here from the audience. How are you, managerial level, leadership level, how do you approve receipts and transactions for the field team to make sure it's coded correctly, they're legit purchases, that kind of thing?
I mean, I'm in
Yeah,
top key
so
every day, and I'm sure Heather can say the same as well. I mean, you're going through there, you're in there every day, and it's you just got to keep an eye on it. But it's in same thing with the new system, and I think rolling things out. It's like, hey, how do I code this? How do I know if it's build to owner, build to this? I'm like, well, it doesn't have to be as complicated as you think. If you have a question, just ask. But and I think once it gets rolling, they start doing it, especially during busy season. And the fact that they get every time they use their virtual card to buy a light bulb or to get gas for the company vehicle, they tap that virtual card like your Apple Pay, and they almost immediately get that link where they can go in on their phone because they're not in the office on a laptop every day like we are. They can go in on their phone, put in what owner or build a corporate or build to somebody else, and to just already be able to do it rather than at the end of the day or say at the end of the week they have 20 transactions that they have to go through. They can just do it one by one as they go through, and they remember as soon as it happens that it's getting done. So I think that's that SMS reminder to each of everybody's virtual card into their cell phones is very helpful for them and to me.
mhm. Yeah, definitely. And, even if the guys think they've got the right code in there, I am in there every single day. So I'll go in and, check everything before I push it over to either Track or to, the PM or our ERP system. And, the vendor bills themselves, I'm the one that does the final push on those. So, there's a final set of eyeballs on everything to make sure it's going to the right house, that it is actually something that's going to be billable to the owner, all of that before it goes in whichever direction it needs to go to. Um, so it's not just, the bill comes in and anybody just grabs it. There is a workflow of who has to have eyeballs on something before it finally gets billed to a homeowner or before it finally gets billed to corporate.
And I think a lot of people appreciate having that, say double or triple check. We want to trust what our teams are doing. We want to trust the technology is doing what it should be doing. But the last thing we want is, a decimal to end up in the wrong place or, one too many commas to work their way into the equation. Then you got someone unhappy, on one end of that equation or the other. Um, so I know we all want to, optimize and lean on tech as much as possible, but very few things I believe should be truly like set it and forget it when we think about our day-to-days.
Mhm.
I agree.
One maybe unintended consequence of the implementing Topkey has really been like when an employee mistakenly uses their corporate card, their company card for a personal purchase, they're not really tracking that on a daily basis before when we didn't have Topkey. So it wouldn't be until we got the statement, the credit card statement, and we're trying to reconcile it at the end of the month that would be like, what is this charge at Target? Who was this for? And they'd be like, oops, oh, I'm so sorry. I must have used the wrong card. I'm so sorry. Well, now they get their link immediately. And so that they're right away able to say, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I must have used the wrong card. And, it saves hours of our time at the end of the month, like trying to track down this random purchase that was a total error, just a human error mistake on the part of the employee that really makes life a lot easier.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's we all make little mistakes. It's even, in my work and everyone, it's like, okay, I want someone checking it because ultimately before you push things out, and especially something as important as finances, where it's like you said, Brett, if a decimal place is off, that's an issue. It's not like a little typo on a blog. It's like, no, this is actual money that we need to figure out. So we have just a couple minutes here, and then we have to go. So I want to end on maybe one final. Would love to get everyone's opinion. AI, obviously, huge topic. What is maybe the something that you have implemented, or the first thing you want to on the AI side? And what's the last thing you would ever have AI touch?
That's a good question. I like it. Goodness. So, I mean, I with AI, it's so broad. It's such a broad topic, and it touches in so many different areas and aspects of life. And it's like we still all don't really know a whole lot about it. But I mean, something that immediately comes to mind is with Topkey, we have AI who, once you start using it for a couple months or a little while, it automatically starts remembering how to assign those transactions and where they go. So I can just double check it, click, look at it, like, oh, okay, and it tells you, hey, we're using AI to do this, which is just, you go in, double check it, click yes, that sounds great. Thank you for remembering and knowing that repeated transaction is how that gets coded. But something I think that the AI would never replace, and I hope never does, is I think those personal connections with my homeowners and with the employees as well. There is no replacing that human connection.
Yeah, and I think that's talking with our engineering team. It's like it's kind of the point of all this at the transactional level is hey, only you can do the relationships. So
Mm-hmm.
let's free up your time to do that. So you're not spending so much time on some of this more transactional. Um, yeah, Heather, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I love it in Topkey that, I don't have to tell it what unit it is. It just automatically pulls the data right over, whether it's, the name of the unit or the address of the unit. Um, I love the memorized transactions. That also makes it easy, except for gas receipts, which, is it a company? Is it a homeowner? I don't know which. Um, so that, having to change those constantly, I usually just click no on those. But yeah, just freeing up everybody's time at the end of the day so that they can focus more on the relationships with the homeowners, the relationships with the guests, and with the team itself. You know, if we're not having to constantly harass the managers to harass their employees, they can focus more actually on the job instead of, oh God, did I get this done? They can focus big picture instead of the little stuff, which, makes a big difference, when you're in this business in particular, because it is very, client and guest facing, and it needs to stay that way. And so if, you can do all this humming in the background, with very little fuss, then that makes it that much easier for us to be that forward facing company.
Couldn't agree more, Heather.
And yeah, more AI with Topkey is always good. but more AI with our personal relationships is coming. Yeah.
I don't have anything original to add to that. I think at this point, I would agree with what all of you had said, right? Like let AI and just tech in general, handle some of those more menial, like really like micromanaging kind of tasks, so you can really train the robots to like go in and handle for us. And then, let the people work out the people things, right? Let the adults talk, in a way, like leave that true core interacting, uh, you know, with us all.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Well, yeah, thank you everyone so much. This is super informative. I think the audience got a lot out of it. There was great engagement. So that wraps up the panel. Again, Morgan, Heather, Inger, Brett, thank you so much for joining us. And before we close, just want to give a chance. If people want to connect with you, where can they find you? Or if this is the place to do it, then that's fine too.
Yeah,
I have
you
LinkedIn.
can.
If anybody wants to message me in there, I'm totally open to that. I think that's appropriate professional platform. So happy to go over any other questions.
You can reach me via email. You can visit the Clear Creek Group website and it'll take you right to me. Same with Inger, probably. We're happy to answer any questions you may have.
Yes.
Yeah,
Email's
link.
great for me too. In that every day.
Yeah, well, just people that are, yeah, exactly. Brett, how about you? Where can people reach out and who should reach out?
Yeah, LinkedIn is great. Email address be right at trackhospitality.com. Yeah, happy to answer any questions. Also in my email every day, LinkedIn. Trying to do better. Personal goal, trying to do better at LinkedIn. But either way, yeah, feel free to reach out. Happy to help.
Aren't we all? So yeah, everyone, if you found the discussion helpful, connect with everyone here on LinkedIn. And yeah, if you want to automate your financial operations, save time, close your books faster, spend more time on relationships with owners, take a look at Topkey, topkey.io/customers. You can see actual results from our customers, many of whom are Track, and they have a lot of great mutual customers. So with that, thank you so much to our panelists and our audience, and we'll hope to see you next time.
Bye. Thanks,
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 everyone.
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 Thanks.